Hi folks, here's our next edition from Fit the Soul. Our next webinar is on communication during COVID times. So we at Fit the Soul present to you our next webinar. What do we do at Fit the Soul? We create women leaders. We would like women to break the glass ceiling. So we now bring to you a series on how to work on leadership programs during COVID times. And the first thing we thought was on keeping your focus during these COVID times. That was our first webinar. So today we present to you our second webinar, and that is on communication. Most of us are used to having meetings face to face. Meetings are conducted and ideas are expressed not just through words, but through facial expressions, through your eyes, your eyebrows, the nod of your head, the gentleness, many things. So now, when we aren't meeting people face to face, how do we communicate? Are we able to communicate in such a way that we have their rapt attention? In today's times, when most of us are struggling to figure out how to deal with this, when most of our communication is through Zoom and WebEx and many other such programs, how do we get the excitement that you see in this picture? How do you get the excitement of having people looking forward to your meetings, looking forward to your conversations? Do they listen to you just because you're the boss? Or do you think they're listening to you? Because half the time you are talking to a screen, and on the opposite side, you either see a fixed picture or you see a name because their video is switched off. And why is their video not on? My video doesn't work. That's an excuse that most of the people use these days. We all know that they choose not to put on their video. So in those kind of scenario, how do you communicate? What are the 3 C's of communication? Good communication. The first C, see, if you look at this picture, everyone looks animated, interested in whatever they are watching. So the first C is to captivate your audience. So how do you captivate your audience? So if you have to express an opinion, an idea, how do you get their attention? If you're a person with a good sense of humor, a joke is a good start. Otherwise, an anecdote, a blooper that you have just committed recently, a stupid thing that you emailed or you said or you did can be a great start. It's great to laugh at yourself because everybody else laughs with you. Laughs with you. So it's a nice way to communicate, to start with. And the other thing is that, how do you excite the participants? It's not just about giving them an opinion, just about telling them something. You need to excite them. So how do you bring on a topic? How do you take it forward? How do you dress for the meeting? You're on video. We've seen enough WhatsApp jokes on dressing for these e-meetings. But remember, a small accessory, getting dressed, checking out how your background is, all those are very important. And nice to start a conversation and participants respond. So what do? You engage the participants. When you engage the participants, they feel they're part of it. When you engage the participants, remember, you're not engaging them just for fun or just for the sake of engaging them. You are engaging them so that they have an opinion, they tell you their opinion, and you accept their opinion. You can choose to accept it, you can choose to debate it, but you don't just ask for an opinion and not take it. So how do you do that? So you can put it out to debate and respond back by acknowledging their point of view and maybe opening it out to debate to all of them so that they all have a point of view and all of that is noted and acknowledged. And when you send back an email responding to this, you acknowledge that these were the conversations that took place and the decisions were taken in this way. That way, they all feel that the conversation was engaging. So when you captivate your audience, you need to excite them and engage them. And so when that happens, they all feel they're part of this whole program and they are equal participants in this. So what happens? The first C is the captivating your audience. So what is your next C? Your next C is to convey content. How do you convey content? So now look at this picture. This is my fat to fit story. So there is me before, that's just me 10 years back, and that's on the right is me today. So this is a very graphic way of conveying content. I'm sure most of you all who have seen this picture will remember this because it really gets imprinted in your brain, in your mind. So when you're conveying content, remember, it needs to be in a way that the message gets imprinted in their minds. If that is done, then your content has been conveyed. Especially if you're in training, if you're in teaching, it's very hard to get your participants to concentrate all the time. I have a friend who's telling me that she has a lot of difficulty getting her 8-year-old child to sit in front of the computer the whole day and attend his classes. I was just feeling a little sorry for her. Poor boy. He wants to go out and play, and all he has to do is sit in front of this boring computer, and it says it's school, and attendance is very important. So how do teachers, trainers convey content? You have to make it exciting. You have to make it interesting. You have to make it graphic. So I had this call with one of my coaches last week, and she had this document she was trying to share with me. It had a lot of squares, a lot of words, and she was zipping through it. And what happened? I didn't get it. And she started off by saying, Jessie, last week we spoke about something and this. She didn't tell me what we spoke about. I don't know if she realized I have 20 other people I coach like her every week. So she just went at breakneck speed. Next few minutes, instead of listening to her, I was busy trying to figure out what is it that she had told me the last week, or what is it that she and I had shared the last week. Jessie, you know what we shared last week? And she just went on. After about 5 minutes, I said, do you know, I do not remember what you said the last week. We spoke about a lot of things. And because you haven't told me what we spoke and you have just gone on, I have not even heard the next few sentences you said. 3 days later, I had a call with her, another colleague of hers. And she started by saying, Jessie, last week we spoke about a couple of things. The first one was this. And this is what I have done. How beautifully conveyed. She told me we had a conversation last week. She told me what we spoke. And she told me what is a follow-up action she had done. So I could listen to her, I could hear her out. So when you're trying to convey content, we're sometimes in such a hurry to make sure we spew out what we know. We give out everything in the short time possible. We just overload the system. And that screen was full of words, full of boxes, full of squares. I couldn't understand anything. And she kept saying, I know you won't understand. And she just kept going at breakneck speed. Now, if you think I will not understand, and then you go at breakneck speed, what is the point of that conversation? I told her later, I said, the last 10 minutes, we've had a conversation which meant nothing to me. Are you also conveying content like this? Are you thinking through this? So think through this. You are telling another person something, and he may or may not be on video, which means he or she may or may not be on the telephone looking at her WhatsApp messages, scribbling through something, playing a game with her child, or trying to figure out what to cook for the next meal. In that sequence, what does she understand? What are you conveying? And how are you conveying? You need to understand that when you're physically telling a person, standing in front of a person and conveying a content, you can actually give in much more content. So here you need to think through this. Have they understood? And to find out if they have understood, after 3 or 5 minutes, start engaging them. Going back, so if you have captivated your audience, start engaging and exciting them. Go back to what you have said. Now, how do you convey content? When we were in school, we had to do letter writing. So what did we do? We had a subject. We said what we were going to write in the letter. Then we had a body where we wrote the letter. And we had a conclusion where we said what we were writing in the letter. That's the same thing about conveying content. You first tell them that today we are going to talk about communication during COVID times. We are going to talk about the 3 C's of communication. You get through the 3 C's and you end up with saying these were the 3 C's of communication that we wanted to discuss, and that is what we have discussed. So the same thing, follow your letter writing procedure, tell them what you're going to say, go ahead and tell them what you wanted to say, and finish by saying what you have already said. It's a much better way to convey content. Whether you're a trainer, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a boss, whether you're a colleague, this works the best. It's the best way to explain to people what is the content you're trying to convey. So we have already spoken about captivating the audience and how to convey content. And what is the last one that we want to talk about? That is to create a lasting impression. So how do we create a lasting impression? So we go back to this picture. Does anybody know what this picture stands for? This is the story of a gentleman called Zia Boyu. And you can see that he has 2 prosthetic legs. So let me tell you what happened to this gentleman. He is a trekker. At the age of 26, he tried to climb Mount Everest and they could not summit. As they were coming down, an older person lost his sleeping bag and Zia Boyu lent him his sleeping bag. And next morning, he found out that both his feet had got frostbitten. When he came down, both his feet had to be amputated, somewhere close to the ankle. He didn't give up. He continued to trek. He continued to try to climb the Everest. and then he got cancer. And then they had to amputate both his legs above the knee. Did it stop him? No, it did not. He continued to try and trek. And at the age of 69, more than 40 years after he tried his first summit, he climbed Everest. He climbed Everest on his prosthetic legs, 2 artificial legs. Here we all sit and gripe and whine and complain about how difficult life is during COVID times. How much more did Zia Boyu have to complain about? His feet were amputated, then his legs were amputated, but it never stopped him. And the Nepalese government brought in a rule saying that amputees and blind men could not climb Everest. He took it to court and said that was discrimination. He won the case, and then he was able to summit, and he summited. Now, when I give you a graphic picture like this and tell you the story, you might not remember his name, you might not remember his age, but you will still remember here was a man who had his legs amputated and at his 6th attempt climbed Everest, 28,000 feet. And he came back safe and sound. So what did I do? Using the graphics and using a graphic description of what he did, I tried to create a lasting impression. So this is what we need to do. We need to create a lasting impression on the conversation that we are having so that they know what we are trying to convey. So if you look at the 3 C's, what are they? Captivate the audience, which also means excite and engage the audience. Second was to convey content. And third is to create a lasting impression. If you create a lasting impression, the next time you're going to have a meeting, there's already excitement amongst the participants. So if you create a lasting impression, there's already an anticipation that they're going to hear something where the content is worth taking back. You're already setting a precedence for something exciting for them to look forward to. So when you have your calls, are you going to do that? Just yesterday, I was talking to somebody, and this lady told me, Jesse, I have so many meetings. I don't even know what to say, back-to-back meetings. So I told her, yes, you may have back-to-back meetings. How do you handle it? So the night before, you write down all the list of the meeting, every meeting that you have, and write down what is it that you need to tell them and what is it that you need to extract from them. What is the information that you need? So the 2 things, first, what am I going to tell them? What am I going to extract from them? For every meeting, you make those pointers. Then you write the 3 C's for each meeting, next to each meeting, and say, how am I going to captivate the audience? How am I going to convey the content? And how am I going to create a lasting impression? You write little pointers on little cards. So the front of it has all the matter that you want to convey and what you want to extract from them. And on the back of it, you have the 3 C's with the 2 E's into that. And keep those little cards so that every meeting you pick up that card and you know exactly what you need to ask, what you need to tell, and how you need to say. So when you're saying you captivate the audience, you have a little story, little joke, little anecdote. You keep all that ready for each meeting. Once you do that, you're not stressed out. Here, she was in my meeting thinking about her next meeting. She said, I've got a meeting with my boss, and I don't even know how exactly I'm going to run it. So I told her, all you're thinking about is your boss's meeting while you're talking to me. So that doesn't really help. So what you need to do is be a little organized, plan ahead, and make those little cards. And once you make those little cards, you know that you will be able to take it forward. So what are the 3 C's of communication we spoke about? Captivate the audience, convey content, create a lasting impression. Make these little cards and write down the name of the meeting the night before and fill in these. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this successfully? And you will see that as you progress, you get better and better at it. You will try, first time you may make a couple of mistakes, bungle, but you will still come out saying, hey, was I better than last week? And as you go each week, you will say, wow, I'm getting better each week. Each week, I'm a little better than last week. So that's the way we need to go. And that's what we need to do, the 3 C's of communication. And these are the 3 C's that you need during COVID times to take your communication to the next level. So here we are, Fit the Soul. We create women leaders. And we are on Facebook. We are on LinkedIn. We are on Instagram. So join us at fitthesoul.in. We have blogs, we have newsletters, and we have a webinar every week. Every last weekend of the month, we come out with a webinar. Join us, subscribe, sign up, and happy to see you next month again. Thank you very much.